Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask before we begin, and then I'll incorporate the answer into the talk? Anything at all, especially if you're embarrassed to ask or too shy or afraid, especially ask those questions.
I wonder if you could speak anything about the physique, the body, because, well, it's coming from space, it's going to space, but, well, I at least, some people can have a lot of point of views about that, and it seems to be a consistent thing. But well, I'm trying to rest in awareness actually about the fact that the body also is only a point of view coming from, you know, the space of the basic space of awareness and going there. And I'd really like to hear a bit more about that.
Thank you. Anil?
At some point, you said that awareness is undivisible.
Indivisible.
Yeah, I do have understanding of that, but maybe would like to hear once more. That's
Sure, absolutely. We have a specific teaching on that, by the way, that's part of the Way of Rest, which is one of the teachings of Great Freedom. It's quite a lengthy teaching just on the theme of indivisibility. Yes?
I had a question. When we read the Upanishads, this word comes up, Hridakash, sky of the heart. So this is something I'd like to ask you, that when we talk about the heart, that what is this heart, and why do the scriptures keep mentioning it?
Oh, all right. That's a great question. Oh. Thank you.
Yesterday evening I was very confused. I went through a lot yesterday evening, and then I had, on one hand, I had the urge to share it with the one I was talking to. Strong urge to tell what's happening inside of me, and then I started to get confused, but how far is it that I'm just telling him, her, my points of views? How much is it this giving substance to this personal identity? And this was something that was really confusing me for a while. In the end, it came out that I shared what was happening and it was fine. But yeah, there's a lot of potential for confusion when yes. It's not really a question, but maybe you can say something to that.
Form it into a question.
Yeah, so where's the small line between making stories out of it and sharing what's the juicy experience of the moment inside of me? So
great, thank you. Up here, Simon, first. Right up here. Would you raise your hand? Didn't you have a question? Yes, yeah.
Is the destination of awareness the same destination that people follow on the path of bhakti? The path of bhakti, or devotion to God. Mm-hmm. Is it the same essence? Or is it some different, or is it another point of view within awareness?
Bhakti?
Bhakti, yeah.
Oh, uh-huh.
It's a path here in India that people
Oh, I'm
teach.
quite familiar with it.
Oh, good.
Good question, though. We might as well get all these things cleared up. Arun?
I'm just curious if a really strong desire or urge to freedom or know the truth is useful at all.
Oh, uh-huh.
I love you for that one.
All right.
Have you had any comments on spirit or the soul and incarnation? I think we're all aware that we're all individual, and anyone that's known a child from the moment it's born, it has an individual sense. It has its personality, and that's not points of view because it's only just arrived. And I wanted to know what your views were on incarnation of that kind of individuality, what makes us our souls.
Thank you. Some of you who have asked questions are in the 12 Inquiries teaching everyday awareness currently. So if you're in that teaching, just know that all your questions, whatever they are, will be resolved in the course of the inquiries. Did you have a question? Or? Oh, all right, great. One more and then we'll begin.
I just wanted to ask how can this thing work with the mental patients, schizophrenics, and people that are not aware of that have no ability of being aware of their awareness, and they're caught up in
Points of view.
As you will say, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
You answer my question. Forget it.
I'd love to answer that question, and not as a theory, but as the practice of resting is actually used in psychiatric facilities. So, yeah. From the moment we're born, we have an urge within us to seek relief, whether it's crying for a bottle or crying to have our diaper changed or whatever it is. We have an urge within us to seek relief. Now, the urge of an infant is one that is entirely spontaneous. In other words, it's not thinking, I need something to eat. It's just a spontaneous expression. And then in the same way that a dog wants to eat, a dog doesn't think, oh, I need some food right away, or I have to eat at 8 in the morning and then 5 in the afternoon. It's entirely spontaneous. Now, I know with my dogs, they when they're hungry, they just show up by their bowl. You know, it's that simple, but they're not on a time schedule. And they're not thinking, what's going to be in the bowl today? So you see, when we're born, we're entirely spontaneous expressions of awareness. We don't have any opinions yet. We don't have any opinions about what's going on. No opinions at all. So this is very important to realize because this is our natural state. It's completely our natural state. Our natural state is to not depend on opinions and to live in a spontaneous, natural, highly relational way. Now, another thing about a baby, have you ever noticed they're impartial? So we can be carrying our baby down the street and the baby just looks at everybody. You know? It's not It hasn't come into any of these points of view of I'm someone and there's someone and maybe I have to defend and protect myself. None of that is going on. Babies have not been substantialized yet by points of view. They aren't taking themselves to be anybody. And so these are very important things to notice because it shows us what our natural state is. Just like the spontaneity of a baby who's entirely open and spontaneous, that's our natural state too. So in the same way that a baby will just stare at anyone and really stare, can't take their eyes off them. Have you ever noticed that? It's just so precious. This too is our natural heart inclination to be so connected to everyone. This is our, and it's always naturally present. It never goes anywhere else. So when we talk about the heart, that's what we're really talking about. We're not talking about a location in the body. And I'll get into that a little bit more in this talk this morning. But the heart is the essence of everything as it is. Inseparable from awareness is the heart. Inseparable from awareness is love. Inseparable from awareness is God, or whatever we want to call it. In the Great Freedom Teaching, we use the word awareness because there are many people in the world today, about 7 billion and growing all the time. And there's one word that all human beings can understand, and that's awareness. We all know we're aware. We know that we're aware, and no one can say that they're not aware. So if people familiarize themselves with awareness, then they know that by which all is known. So all of us in this room recognize that to one degree or another. And what it means to rest as awareness for short moments repeated many times is that we rest as love. We rest as the heart. We rest as wisdom. We rest as the devotionless devotion of everything as it is. So when we hear these terms like the heart or bhakti or whatever it is, when we hear terms like devotion, then we need to know what devotion is in the ultimate sense. And devotion in the ultimate sense is the complete heart devotion to the essence of our own being. The unmitigated, relentless heart devotion, that it can't be turned on and off. It's natural to us, and we recognize it when we rest as awareness. So it's very, very beautiful. Now, when we substantialize ourselves with points of view, as an infant this comes about. If we want to really know if there is somebody here, then we have to consider this label of a personal identity. And we have to find out, first of all, if this personal identity has a location. And secondly, we need to know if there's anyone dwelling there in that location. So, if we really want to look into the personal identity, these are the two things we need to know. Is there a location, and is there anyone dwelling there? Well, the infant has no ideas about any of that. It's a spontaneous expression of awareness only. And it has a sense of being, the ease of being, but that's all. It doesn't call it anything. It's just free and happy to be. Happy to be however that happy to be looks. So that happy to be hasn't been divided up into positive and negative. Happy to be screaming its head off, happy to be smiling. So you see, we project all of our ideas onto infants and we say the baby's unhappy. But the baby is just spontaneously free as whatever is appearing. And so are we. We're always able to be spontaneously free as whatever is appearing. Now, this sense of being, the ease of being that a baby has, people start to describe to the baby what that sense of being is, and that's how the baby learns. I am an I. Everyone's telling me I am somebody. But even a baby cannot, for 2 or 3 years, ever even use the word I. Have you noticed that with an infant? They'll first refer to themselves by their name. I really noticed this with my own children and with my grandchildren. My grandson Jack, he was 3 or 4 years old before he ever used the word I. He would say Jack. That's what people called him. So he'd say, Jack wants to go to McDonald's and have a Happy Meal. He wouldn't say, I want to go to. He hadn't learned the I am the body identity yet. So it takes a long time to really start to focus on that and hold to it. So, you know, if we really want to know about the personal identity, we need to know if there's any underlying basis that this label applies to, if indeed there is a location and someone dwelling there. And in order to look into that, all we have to do is say, okay, well, where is the I located? Where exactly is it located? And we can say, well, is it located in, we can look at all the organs of the body. Is it located in the skin? No. Is it located in the brain? Well, no. Not even any scientist has been able to show conclusively the location of someone existing in the brain. Is it located in any of the other body parts? Well, no, we can't really find it there either. And then we can look into the cellular level of the body and the subatomic particle level of the body, and we can say, well, you know, is there someone located there? And we really can't find anyone located anywhere there either. And then we can take all those particles and throw them in a linear particle accelerator. And what do we find all those particles are made? Well, they're made of space. And we know we're aware, so if we examine that awareness, we see too that that awareness is made of space, so that these two are inseparable, awareness and space. So everything, no matter what it is comprised of this aware space, which is equal to the heart, which is equal to love, which is equal to wisdom, the timeless wisdom that is the natural order of everything. And when we look into ourselves in this way, it leads to the joy of certainty. It leads to the joy of certainty that there's never been anyone here that is separate from awareness. Do you see what I'm saying? There's never been anyone anywhere who's separate from awareness. There isn't someone that we can find to be located anywhere. So that debunks the whole idea that there's someone who was born, lives a life, and dies. There's just this spontaneous expression of awareness right here in a totally natural way, like an infant. Maybe, you know, we have more information than an infant has, but we're equally at ease with all of the sensory impressions and everything that as an infant is. We never lose that natural responsiveness and freedom of everything as it is. And when we consider that we only are this aware space, we can look into it further in terms of other labels like the senses and our eyesight, for example. We learn when we go to school in our biology classes and our physiology classes that we see with the eyes. That's just what we learn, and we accept it because an authority tells us that we see with the eyes. But if we look into the eye, we can follow the same line of reasoning that we did with the personal identity. We can look at each part of the eye and try to determine whether seeing is located in the different parts of the eye, in the sphere of the eye, or in the retina, or any of the blood vessels or corpuscles, or the optic nerve, and we can't find that seeing's located anywhere. And if we're still skeptical, then we can ask, well, what is it that sees in dreams when our eyes are shut? If we're so convinced that it's the eyes that see, then what is it that sees and dreams when our eyes are closed? So in this way, we can come to a conclusive understanding within ourselves that it's awareness that is the forerunner of everything. It's this aware, pure space that is the forerunner of everything. And as aware, pure space is the forerunner of everything, and no matter what appears is comprised of it, no matter what the label is, it is aware, pure space and nothing else. The label does not refer to anything underlying it that has a substantial basis in and of itself. No matter what the label refers to, what's really there? Aware, pure space and nothing else. There isn't anything else there that is substantial or can be said to have an individual identity. Now, when we understand this, it's much easier to rest as awareness. It's much, much easier to rest as awareness and realize that within the all-encompassing pure view of aware, pure space, all the points of view that arise are that aware, pure space and nothing else. They're the dynamic energy of that aware, pure space and nothing else. Only awareness is real, and all points of view are awareness. To understand things in such a simple way really supports us in resting as awareness. And then in the moment of an appearance, we have a choice. We have a choice to rest as awareness and become familiar with that, or continue on the way we've been being, with attributing significance and importance to our points of view, and emphasizing them and talking about them a lot. Now, we go through a shift, most of us, a gradual shift from the intellectual understanding, in other words, the reasoning about awareness and as the nature of everything, and actually having that as our decisive experience at all times. So in the beginning, when we begin to rest as awareness, we've for years been going through all of these things, talking about all our points of view, reinforcing them, describing them, substantializing our individual identity, and then based on the substantialization of the individual identity with all our points of view, we see everybody else as separate, and we compete with others to show how important our points of view are compared to theirs. And so, when we just start to relax, a lot of this is still going, just like a potter's wheel continues to go after we take our foot off the pedal. In the same way, there's just this mechanical regeneration, we could call it, of all these points of view. It continues to go on and on like the potter's wheel. Well, if we throw ourselves on the potter's wheel to try to stop it, well, we'll just be whirling around. It's very hard to stop a potter's wheel. Plus, it's cold and sticky and made of stone. So, it's not a pleasant thing to do. So if we try to forcefully stop everything that's going on in this transition process, then we'll feel uncomfortable. But if we just rest as awareness and let everything be as it is, all these points of view will naturally settle out. They'll just naturally settle out. Really and truly, to just rest as awareness is all that is required, and not even that is required. I can guarantee you, if you don't want to rest as awareness and you come here every day, just even with a little bit of an open mind in the beginning, and you continue to return every day, that conviction will dawn. I see this over and over and over again. I see people show up and who are totally lost in points of view, and maybe they just came off a bender. Do you know what that is? Where you get really drunk every day for a whole lifetime or whatever it is. Or on a big drinking and drug binge, and then show up here and do nothing. Just do absolutely nothing. Well, now, traditionally, it would be said this is a poor candidate. to realize awareness. But this is not the case. There's no one who is a poor candidate. Everyone already is awareness. How could anyone be a poor candidate? So you see, the intent of awareness is entirely beneficial by nature. And when this beneficial intent is entirely present in a teaching, and in other words, every word of the teaching states that everyone already is aware, that there's no veering or wavering from that ever, no matter what seems to be happening, then that conviction as well dawns in anyone who shows up and sticks around. So, you know, I have seen many, many of these situations, all kinds of people, from people who have had experiences of awareness, who are resting as awareness to some degree, to people who have never heard of awareness, to people who have tried everything to exhaust certain faults like alcoholism or drug addiction or sex addiction or whatever it might be. And through just showing up, conviction dawns that the ground of being, the real heart of being, the essence of that urge that is within them to seek relief in drinking or in drugs or sex or work or romancing or whatever it might be, recreation, that this urge is really an urge to freedom. It's an urge to ultimate freedom. But when we don't really know where to look or what to look for, then it comes out in other ways. So it comes out in, oh, you know, I feel so miserable, I want some relief, so I'm going to have a drink, or I'm going to smoke a joint, or take some acid, or whatever it is. There are all kinds of things available today, or other things as well. But all of these things, if they are troublesome in any way, and they're things that you want to change, then you've probably already tried to change them, but maybe haven't been able to do so. In resting as awareness, all of these faults are exhausted, and qualities are perfected in an easeful way. When the commitment is to resting as awareness, then that's what the commitment is. And in the transition process of beginning to do that, many of these things may still come up for a while, but continue to rest as awareness. If you play out old points of view, don't be hard on yourself over it. Just say, well, you know, I fell down, now I'm going to get back up. I forgot about resting as awareness, and I tried on some of my points of view, but so what? I'm just going to rest as awareness now. There's only this opportunity right here to rest as awareness. Now, many times we've formed relationships with other people that are based entirely on points of view. We talk to our partners, husband, wife, our friends, in our workplace. We're talking about our points of view all the time. Points of view. These are my points of view, and let me know what your points of view are, and I'll decide whether or not you'll be my friend, you know. I'm going to decide whether your points of view match my points of view, and then I'll decide whether you're worthy of my friendship. And so we're playing this out all the time. And then whatever our points of view are, we want to have people as our friends who agree with our points of view. So, you know, if we decide to get married or couple up with somebody, then of course we want to couple up with someone who agrees with our points of view. We don't want to couple up with people who don't agree with our points of view. And so we, especially when we get together with someone, we want someone not only who agrees with our points of view, but loves our points of view. They really love our points of view. Of course, they won't for long. That only lasts for a brief time in the beginning. Did you notice that? Then they want to change our points of view. We want to change their points of view, and they want to change our points of view. So, and then very often this plays out with our children too. We want to change their points of view into our points of view. It's madness, I'll tell you. It never leads to well-being, and we see this within ourselves. We feel intensely uncomfortable very often. And then when we are looking at ourselves as our points of view, then we're looking at everyone else as their points of view. We're always feeling like we have to have better points of view. We're always feeling like everyone else has to have a better points of view. So there's always tension and conflict all the time, wherever we look, within ourselves, in our relationships, within our communities, cities, countries, and the world. So you see how this plays itself out in all domains of life and all realms of life. And it's very simple, really, when you look at it. It's so simple how it all comes about. But, and why do we persist in it? We don't know what to do about it. It's as simple as that. It's never been described to us in a simple way. Well, how do I get out of this torment? How do I get out of this tornado of, do you know what a tornado is, everyone? It's a spiraling wind mass that is very rapid in velocity, and it looks like a cone that comes up from the ground, so an upside down triangle, and it whirls around at a very high rate of speed, and everything it touches, it just disintegrates. It totally demolishes everything in its path. In America, we have these things called tornadoes, literally and figuratively. So, when we live our life based on all our points of view, it's like being caught up in a tornado. A tornado, it lights somewhere, and then it goes up in the sky, and then it lights somewhere else, and you never know where it's going to light. It destroys everything. So the same is true with all our points of view. When we live in this whirlwind of points of view, then we're caught in that forever, and we never know where it's going to touch down and destroy relationships, destroy our own well-being. We just never know, because the points of view are countless. They're ceaseless. They're unpredictable. They can't be determined. And when we take ourselves to be those points of view, then when they appear, we think we have to do something about them, and this just creates more chaos. This creates more confusion. This is particularly true with powerful negative or afflictive states. When these states come up, they feel so urgent, and when we've had a habit of handling them in a certain way, then we might want to persist in that for a while, because it might seem like that's the only way we can get relief. However, when we rest as awareness, we find true relief. We find true relief, and it may be difficult to stop talking about our emotionally afflictive states and just rest as awareness. No need to push ourselves or anything at all. Just gradually allow yourself to rest as awareness in a comfortable way. Grow familiar with it, and then apply it to the things that are especially afflictive, that really cause a lot of pain. And gradually in this way, it's possible to resolve all afflictive states, no matter what they are, to find the pure pleasure in everything as it is. So you see the essence, the heart essence of all afflictive states is pure pleasure. It's pure pleasure, and that pure pleasure is in the lack of separation between happiness and suffering. You see, the only way we come to know that is through our own decisive experience that all of these appearances, they actually are awareness. They're not a special thing that has power in its own right, that can somehow get us or affect us or destroy us. They're a self-appearance of ourselves. And as we've already shown today, we only are awareness. So whatever appears, it's a self-appearance of awareness. When we rest as awareness repeatedly, for short moments, many times it becomes spontaneous. It becomes automatic. It becomes permanent. We rest as the actual heart, which is the basic space of that point of view, the heart essence of everything as it is. And only in this way can we really come to understand everything about ourselves. When we rest as that by which everything is known, then we know about everything. We know about our body and how to take care of our body. We know about our emotional states and how to take care of our emotional states. We know about our thinking, and we know about everyone else's thinking and emotional states too. When we get familiar with ourselves as awareness, then we see clearly, we see everything. We're able to really be with people in a natural way for the first time, a natural way that's based entirely on love. Entirely on love. There's never any reason for anything other than love to appear, because all is love. All is total love. And when we rest as that love, then that love and wisdom start to inform everything. All of our actions, all of the things we do in life. And the more of us who rest as this awareness, then the more love and wisdom informs everything about human living. Our institutions, the way we live together. Institutions that are based on points of view are places filled with pain and chaos. They just replicate what's going on inside us. They're a carbon copy of what's going on inside us. We copy it and paste it in an institution, and the institution is filled with the same thing that's going on inside. But not all institutions are like that. In Great Freedom, we have an organization that isn't like that at all. It's an organization where everyone is welcome as long as they live. No one can either tell you to go or stay. And if you stay, no one will ever vibe you out or force you out or say that there's anything wrong with you. You'll always be supported for success in resting as awareness, no matter what happens. And if you want to go, you can always know Great Freedom will be there for you. If you want to go, we'll say, oh, wonderful, we bid you adieu, but know that we love you and come back anytime. So, and we operate this way worldwide. People live together in a very happy, loving, peaceful way that's filled with enthusiasm for the benefit of the whole, and it's just totally natural and complete. So you see, when people rest as awareness, then they can form institutions and organizations that are happy places to be, rather than organizations where most of the organizations we get involved in, whether it's work or whatever it is, when we go there, there's always a subtle threat that we can be kicked out. We can either be fired from our job or kicked out of where we're living, or maybe, it'll be made miserable for us wherever we're living because people won't like us, and then they'll kind of ignore us when we come around, look out of the corner. There's that one. We don't really want them here, and we don't have the guts to say it, so we'll just treat them in a disrespectful way. So you see, when we substantialize ourselves with our points of view and substantialize our institutions with points of view, this is just what happens. What to do? All we can do is rest as awareness. And more human beings rest as awareness, rest as love, rest as effortless wisdom of potent benefit that is so potent that many people can be swept up easily in resting as awareness. So this is what we really want for ourselves, and we really want this too for the world we live in. So we not only want this for ourselves, but we'd like to see more human beings who are resting as awareness. In this way, then life among us can become effortless too. It can become pleasant. The more we rest as awareness, the more it's very pleasant to be, simply to be. Whereas life may have seemed like an ordeal, it becomes simple to be. We notice we're smiling more, so this is good. And anyone can rest as awareness. Now, the Great Freedom Teaching is in many different locations, like psychiatric institutions and hospitals and prisons, and in places where it might seem like it's impossible for people to rest as awareness. But resting as awareness is so simple. You know, in a psychiatric institution, for example, when we rest as awareness, we really realize that all the points of view we take to be something, they're hallucinations. So all points of view are equal. Just because you have wild, weird ones doesn't mean that they're any that they're different than any other point of view. Do you see what I'm saying? All points of view, no matter what they are like an hallucination. So a good teaching and teacher, it's really, you know, how a good psychiatrist just says, well, you know, you're having some hallucinations here. They're empty of any reality. That's what they say. You know, they're empty of any reality. Same thing here. You know, all the points of view that we're all lunatics when we're living our lives based on points of view. Don't think otherwise. You know, we see it. We see it in ourselves. We're all lunatics. It's madness when we're living our lives based on points of view. So there's no pecking order. You know, it is lunacy, it's madness to live our lives based on points of view. When we rest as awareness, see, this can be taught to anyone. It works much better than any medication, because the medication, it just neutralizes the points of view, and then people start to shuffle around in the institution so that it's easy for the staff to control them. But when people rest as awareness, then they start to really feel a sense of their own ease, the ease of their own being. So we have one friend who very early on in the Great Freedom Teaching took this into the psychiatric facility where he'd been working as a psychiatric nurse for a long time. And, you know, he'd tried everything and he'd seen all kinds of things go on in this place. And he started teaching the patients to rest as awareness. And they all could do it. And they could come together in their groups and just rest as awareness. So to any degree one can rest as awareness, it's a great thing. And the more we rest as awareness, the more timeless wisdom that is potently beneficial comes about. Lots of wisdom, lots of love, lots of energy, just to be totally free and spontaneous in life. To be natural, to be a benefit to ourselves and benefit to others. So this isn't any great undertaking. It's the most natural of all undertakings. It's very difficult to try to hold on to all these points of view all the time. When we just relax and rest as awareness, then we see how easy life can be. We see that all these points of view that appear within awareness, they only are awareness. There's no need to make anything seemingly substantial out of them. So just relax. Whatever your points of view are, they're perfect. You don't need to change your points of view into the points of view of an historical figure like Buddha or anyone. You don't even have to change your points of view into the points of view of anyone in this room. Whatever your points of view are, the heart essence of everything as it is so filled with loving kindness and perfection that whatever your points of view are, they're perfect. They're perfect for the realization of the full evidence of awareness. Whatever your points of view are, what else would you rest as? You can only rest as your own points of view, and there is no awareness that's separate or apart from those points of view. So this makes it so easy, very direct. Anyone can do it. No need to be in any class or caste or all that's gone beyond. See, all these things are points of view. When we rest as awareness, we realize that a lot of conventional beliefs that we've had or that other people have, that these are all just points of view too. In what is unborn, how could there have been the birth of something like called reincarnation or karma? What is entirely unborn is always unborn, including every point of view. So karma is unborn. Reincarnation is unborn. When we rest as the unborn, we realize that all these points of view that stir around and proliferate and are sources of confusion are just all within the realm of points of view. When we rest as awareness, we see everything as it is without thinking about it. Without thinking about it. Whenever we have a belief system about anything, then hierarchies form around it. You know? Hierarchies that say some people are better than other people. Some beings are better than other beings. But when we just rest as awareness, we rest as the great equalness of everything as it is. This is the truly real heart, the great equalness of everything as it is, in which there's never been any kind of separation or division of any kind. In the decisive experience of awareness, it's just such a relief. It makes all the philosophy books unnecessary. When in our own experience we have what the philosophy books talk about, then the philosophy books really become a source of something really special. Without the decisive experience, it's just a bunch of words, you know, just an intellectual understanding. But when in the ease of our own being, we experience everything as it is, everything becomes so sweet. You know? Even the things that are appearing like wars, conflicts, suffering of people, famine, no health care, no education, no clean water, all these things. In resting as awareness, then we enter into the only wisdom that can solve these problems. If we just keep talking about them as points of view, then nothing ever happens. Have you noticed that? There's just more war, more famine, less clean water, more confusion. When we rest as awareness, we come up with powerful solutions that are beyond causation. First, we see this in ourselves, and then we're naturally moved to want to benefit others as well. We have a question.
From the point of view of awareness, is there actually an absolute entity called God, or is that us? From the point.
Well, again, it depends on your point of view. Many people believe that God is something other, that there are human beings and other beings, and then there's God. In non-duality, there's just the single non-dual expanse of love, wisdom, and energy. That's it. And when we rest as awareness, we decisively experience that which is inexpressible, in other words, it can't be described, entirely open, naturally present, and indivisible, as it is a single space. It's just a single space. So in our own decisive experience, we have that experience of what might be called God. But that experience we have as ourselves, so we don't see God as something separate. There needs to be awareness in order to have the concept of God. Without awareness, there's no concept of God. And awareness, it's not a thing. It can't be substantialized in any way. All points of view are included within it. The point of view of the universe, everything, no matter what, the cosmos, no matter what can be perceived or conceived, is within awareness. It's a self-appearance of that awareness. Now, when it comes to our true nature as human beings, what is more important? That all human beings have a simple way to understand the essence of everything, or to call it something? Do you see what I'm saying? Today we're united as a global human body, and it's very important that we all come to an understanding of our true nature using terms that everyone understands. If we use a term like God, then there will be very few people who want to hear about that.
Plus there's so much separation because people have different concepts of God.
Exactly. So nothing needs to change. If you believe in God, and that's really important to you, that doesn't need to change. Just rest as awareness, and more you'll know exactly what that is.
I had a question. When you say point of view, different points of view, is that a synonym for points of awareness?
Yes, it is. It is a synonym for points of awareness.
One other question I had, when you talk about choice, does that not create a chooser and again get into the problem of getting stuck in a point of view?
That's a very good question. It only creates a chooser if there's a personal identity to choose. Do you see what I'm saying? But if there's rest as awareness, there's just awareness. The personal identity or chooser is just a point of view. But the chooser and the personal identity, too, are both awareness. So you see, there's no need to separate anything out. The doer and the non-doer aren't two. This is the only way we can understand ourselves in a really natural way. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. The confusion, I think, comes when we say you have a choice. That means if you don't use the choice, you're not a good person. And then the whole guilt trip comes. That.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No. In the Great Freedom Teaching, we never put things in those terms. It's not a matter of being a good person or a bad person. It's just a matter of having the precious opportunity to rest as awareness, and then choosing to whatever degree we're capable to rest as awareness, and knowing that that's okay. But then knowing, too, we can get support to rest completely as awareness if we want to. But it will never be about being a good person versus a bad person, or a pure person versus an impure person. Whatever appears, it already is originally pure. When we rest as awareness, we just have great love for everyone, no matter what they're doing. Yeah. What comes about for an infant as they grow up is the point of view of non-recognition of awareness. So all the baby is, or the toddler is the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. And then within that, the point of view of non-recognition of awareness appears. So that then starts to relate to a lot of other points of view. But there always is awareness. Even in non-recognition of awareness, there's awareness. For non-recognition of awareness to be requires awareness. So when it's understood so simply, it's much easier for many, many people to rest as awareness. And there's no need to worry about the personal identity. If it seems stable and solid, by resting as awareness, then it will gradually resolve in basic space. There's nothing that needs to be done about it because it never was. So even if we continue to see ourselves as a chooser, a doer, a personal identity for a while, this will just gradually resolve with no effort whatsoever. In the same way it came about gradually. The idea of being a doer, the idea of the I, the personal identity, this gradually came about. The chooser. By resting as awareness, all of that resolves in the basic space of awareness, which is its only essence. This is the ultimate kindness that we can give ourselves, or even to share with others, to say, oh, I learned something that's so amazing. This is the source of complete relief.